thing on the agenda is general business. Approve the previous minutes. Grace, did you get the minutes out as amended?
Yes.
The only amendment that had been requested was Paul had recused himself from the vote, and I incorporated that into it, and then you were going to put the link to the packages. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes otherwise?
Yes. I move that we approve them as amended.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
I abstained. I wasn't here.
Okay. Paul?
Yes.
Margaret abstains. Ken?
Aye.
Tom?
Yep, fine with me. Yes.
And I say yes. Okay. Do we have a treasurer's report?
There have been no changes. I sent, Grace and I both sent Ken our budgets. And I was gonna follow up with Ken also to make sure he has a copy of all of the escrow accounts that we have open as well. So he's looped in on that. But there have been no changes to any of the budgets since we last met.
Okay. And does it make sense for you guys to sit down one of these days?
Yeah, we talked about
Okay.
getting together, so it's
Okay. And the planner's report.
I was gonna offer to do the planners report later, just because I have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Okay, especially seeing Sean's on the phone. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So agenda items, discussion on board reorganization. Is there any discussion?
So we did it last time, right? We did vote it. So you're the chair, vice chair. Tom's the member. I'm the scrivener. I'm taking my notes. And when's that? Okay, treasurer. Congratulations.
Yeah, the motion was it was effective at 7 o'clock tonight, so should be all set.
All right.
Okay. And then the second thing is the request for a 6-month extension of special permit 0 North Street, Westboro Road, large lot frontage.
Right. No, I'll jump in, Sean, and you can add anything if you want through the chair. So Sean McDonald, owner of the property, received. You should have a copy. We have copies of the decision that was rendered a little less than 2 years ago, year and a half ago, for large lot frontage reduction special permit. That is set to lapse come December of this year. Board has the ability to extend special permits by 6 months at a time. So he is here tonight before the board to request that extension, as he's looking to sell the property to somebody who will likely develop what has been approved. They probably won't be able to secure what's been granted them through the special permit in time for December with the sale of the property and things like that. So he's here to request that extension. And then also tonight, we also have reprinted the decision document to be just re-signed by the members that were present for that, because this seems to the original decision, I think, was lost in or was never recorded with the Registry of Deeds, and the deeds won't accept a scanned copy of the signed version. So anything through the chair, anything you'd like to add, Sean?
No, just I guess maybe one adder to that. After I received the permit, as well as Mike Dean, who was the engineer, and we had hired an environmentalist. So it took us almost till the end of August of last year to get the orders of conditions from the Conservation Board, which was a little bit painful and a little bit longer than I had hoped. But once we received those, the market towards the end of last year started to tighten up a little bit with the interest rate rises. So fortunately, I think I missed the market by a few months. But winter came, we put the property back on the market in the spring, and we have a good local builder that's made an offer on it. So he's just asking for some flexibility. One well has been drilled. It's not the the large lot reduced frontage, but his concern is that Upton requires the wells obviously to be drilled before the building permits are issued, and the lots are a little challenging. So in order to drill the well, they have to put in the driveways, and on that particular lot, there's a wetlands crossing. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. So he is going to move forward in developing them. He just wants some flexibility if he can't get the driveways in and the wells drilled before the winter. He just wants some comfort level that he'll be able to do that in the spring once it opens back up.
I have a question, and then
Sure.
Anyone else on the board? So are we talking the building permit for there was only one lot that had a large lot frontage,
Mhm.
and then there were the other three that did not. Do you need an extension on just the large lot frontage reduction, the one that was granted a large lot frontage reduction permit, or I know I'm gonna, like, how much wood could
I'd say that too many
I think
times.
so. Or are you gonna need the extension on them all?
Well, when we did it, technically just the reduced frontage, but it's
Okay.
kind of packaged together. When you guys signed the 81P, all 4 lots were represented on that 81P. But as far as the permit speaks solely to the reduced frontage, which is lot 4 of the grouping. Not sure if that answered your question or not.
It did.
That's correct. Thank you. And this will not generate a new appeal period for this decision as well, because you're re-endorsing the one that the appeal period has already lapsed on that. So I confirmed that ahead of time. So we're all good with
Okay.
sort of those.
The other three are A&R lots, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
A little bit slow, but I try.
I'm learning as fast as I can go on this stuff. Definitely not a developer for sure. And don't think I'll be going into it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't changed that bylaw, so I don't think there's been any changes we have to worry about.
Not since then.
I do have a couple of questions, Madam Chairperson, if you may. First one is all 4 lots, although they're on one plan, can be independently recorded at any time with an 81X process. Just redraw the existing lot lines and record them separately, sell them, and they're cut out of this one piece. So they're not bound together by us. So they're only bound together if you want them to be that way, Sean. I mean, you can easily, those 3 frontage lots are just, they're approved. They're planning board approval not required. You don't have to come back to us or do anything with us from the time we signed it on. And so those are independent. It's up to you. And the second thing is, how does the town benefit at all from not allowing you the extension? What's the benefit to the town to not allow you the extension? There isn't any. It's a trick question. There's no reason why. There's no reason why we shouldn't allow this extension. That's the reason this provision was put in.
Sounds good to me.
So,
I'll keep my mouth shut.
We grant the requested extension and re-endorse the decision from, re-endorse our prior decision.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Paul,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Ken,
Yep.
Tommy,
yes.
and I say yes.
Can I ask one quick question? And Mike, you may have already alluded to it. The builder had said that the special permit should be recorded with the office of Worcester County Deeds Office. The engineer, Mike Dean, had said that typically doesn't get recorded, just the 81P. Do you know, other than, so basically you're going to have them sign, I guess, the original document with new dates, and then that would be stamped by the clerk?
Yeah, it'll be stamped in by the clerk. I'll have to figure out if I'll fill in. We left the date blank. I'll figure out if I put the original date on it or if I'll put tonight's date on it. But if you could go ahead and sign anyway, the members who were there, But yes, you will, that decision needs to be recorded at the registry of deeds, is my understanding. The 81P, was recorded, the A&R lot showing, which we already discussed, included this large lot frontage reduction lot. But as Tom was describing, that's, that's what and it secures the rights of those 3 lots. It's the special permit that needs to be recorded that secures the rights of the large lot frontage reduction lot.
Okay, and that would be recorded. I guess I could do it both at the same time.
I think the A&R lots are already recorded.
They're not. I haven't recorded them yet.
Okay.
So part of this conversation, probably a week or 2 before we go to closing, I'm going to have either being from North Carolina, either the engineer or Aldo Consigli, who's our attorney, will record it. But I had some miscommunication with my engineer on whether that document needed to be recorded. So whatever the hard copy, I guess, ink copy, ink signatures would be what is taken in to record. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
And I believe you should already have in your possession, or your engineer has it, the A&R lots that were signed by the board, because my office does not have those.
I do. He has
Okay.
the Mylar copy of that. So I'm just trying to work on the operational aspects of how everything needs to tactically be done at this point.
Yeah, and have Mike Dean call me if he needs to. I'm in, Mike has my number.
Got it.
Okay.
I think it should be okay, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. And I think I might have to get a decision written up for the 6-month extension. It's a pretty short document. And that would be if it's okay if just the chair signs for that with the rest of the board through the chair.
The chair is fine with that. Chair is going to be out of town for a couple of days, starting September. She's going to be in DC for,
Oh, it'll be way before then.
I mean, not September, starting Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, this
September and Sunday.
They won't be going to the Ashes.
I was confused.
Okay. Well, then, if it's okay to have the vice chair sign.
Yeah. Vice Chair, is it okay if you sign?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. I mean, I can sign Friday morning if that's,
If I have it done by then.
yeah. I'll sign Friday morning. Okay.
Okay. I really appreciate everyone's help.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you kindly. Have a good night, guys.
Okay. So the next thing is public hearing, Governor's Landing. They requested both extension of public hearing and an extension of the decision deadline. So you want to talk about it a little bit, Mike?
You have to close the public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have to open the public hearing.
Reopen the public hearing.
Okay. So regular meeting suspended at 7:14, 7:13. And public hearing open on a Governor's Landing special permit.
Oh, so you had a request from the applicant to extend the public hearing to July 11th, I believe it was, and then extend the decision deadline clock to July 31st.
I'm away July 11th, but I think I'll be able to call in.
Okay, great.
And we're on then, July 11th is the
one we're on.
meeting.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me double check real quick.
Not September.
Don't say September when you're in education. It's dirty.
Love it. They start in August then, don't they?
This year we're starting. We start at Labor Day. So students' jobs usually.
And the shot clock, the extension was July 31.
Yep.
Just checking on the schedule.
Yeah, I was looking for the summer schedule. I can't. Grace, did we put that online?
July 11th.
It is.
July.
Oh, you got it. Great, perfect.
Anything else on there already? Can we do 7:05? Up to you, I'm sure.
Is anything else there? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you likely will not have East Street Estates on for either the next one or so.
Did not look.
For the next year.
So do I hear a motion to,
I move to approve the request to continue the hearing to July 11th at 7:05 PM. And to extend the shot clock, to July 31. Request.
Second.
Paul,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Tom?
Discussion. This subdivision is not gonna fly down the roadway according to our town experts. At what point are we going to say to the applicant, you have to go down 140 or it's not gonna be approved and there's no way we can guarantee it going down the hill?
I have a question. There's a motion on the table and we're taking a vote. The sewer line is gonna be discussed later on in your report, correct?
Can be.
Yeah. Oh, no, I just didn't know. if
I
this
was-
would be a discussion.
I was on to it. I was gonna do a discussion on the motion before the vote. Sorry about that. I was a little slow.
I'm not commenting.
Yeah, I mean,
But I will-
as a matter of process, typically, yeah, there's, how the board does it is typically motion, second, discussion.
Yeah.
And then you take a vote. So
Okay.
I forget where, I think we're already in roll call.
Yeah,
I mean, you can withdraw the motion if you'd
I'll
like.
withdraw my motion.
Okay. Thank you. I'll learn. Okay,
I move
I-
to grant the request to continue the public hearing to July 11 at 7:05 PM and to extend the shot clock to July 31 as requested.
And I second.
okay, discussion.
One thing is, how long are we going to drag this out without telling the applicant for sure that he doesn't have the votes to go down the hill? It has to go down Main Street. I think we owe it to the applicant,
Don't track me.
You mean the cross country? Yeah, okay.
cross country, that cross country is a no-go. I don't think he's got 3 votes. I could be wrong. I don't think he's got 3 votes for cross country. Certainly doesn't have the town chiefs in favor of that. And I think the sooner we explain that to him, the better off everybody will be. He'll be better off with what he wants to do with the property. And it'll be better for the town. Just a thought.
When is the grant decision due? It's not till September or fall, right?
November is when it was announced.
Okay.
Just didn't want to get into the same situation we're in with the East Streets where the poor neighbors are called in and we have to have a special public hearing where they're invited back again.
Well, I feel like we're pretty much getting there already with Governor's Landing. I mean,
Been 20 years.
20 years in.
It's been a short 16 years. I do understand.
Now it's more than that, Tom.
I mean, you as the board can certainly have that conversation plainly at the next time they're here.
Yeah.
Which I would move the July 11th.
But you have already moved with big
Yeah. I'm done. You can call for a vote. I'm done.
Well, anyone else have any discussion? Okay. Paul,
Aye.
Margaret,
Hi.
Ken,
Can I vote on this?
yes, you can vote on it.
Yes.
I think, can you vote on it?
They can vote on continuing it. It's
Yeah.
fine. He's not gonna be able to vote on the actual.
On the actual,
application.
Tommy?
Aye.
And me, I'd say aye. Kathy says aye. Okay, and so, we will end the public hearing and reopen the regularly scheduled meeting. A number of the planning board discussion or action items are included in your report.
Mhm.
So do we want to just go into your report and
Sure.
Okay.
So as of June 2nd, I submitted 4 grant applications.
You have been busy.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
It's a fun grant season. My busiest yet. The most important was obviously the Mass Works grant. And that was for 2,700 linear feet of water and sewer line to be extended down Route 140 to a cost of approximately 3.6 million, to be offset by just north of 700,000 from the applicant for that application. So feeling not overly confident with that, but feeling decent with our shot, just because obviously the state granted the town last year for 275,000 for the engineering, and I think stands to reason that they're not going to throw almost $300,000 at something they're not serious about. So I think maybe it's not this round, but maybe it's next year. So well, to be seen. Site readiness application, that's through Mass Developments, but it's all through the one-stop that the state has for grants. Site readiness application I submitted, that was an estimated cost of $50,000 to provide a building rehabilitation feasibility study for the redevelopment of Holy Angels, to identify environmental resources and regulatory areas, provide conceptual layouts and for proposed conceptual designs, and identify required permitting for those conceptual designs. And that's to assist the town with obviously the marketing efforts to dispose of that property. And so that's why we're on a bit of a holding pattern on proceeding with any new RFPs for Holy Angels at the moment. So obviously, if we're granted that funding, that would help us a lot before we go ahead and proceed with another RFP or something like that. So that'll help us out a lot. I submitted for the Mass Community Planning Grant, and that was an estimated $30,000 for technical assistance to provide an inclusionary zoning feasibility report to the planning board in coordination with implementing any new MBTA community zoning bylaw, along with assistance to create that bylaw. Work to be done in coordination with CMRPC, planning board, and myself. The thing about the feasibility study, which I might have touched on last time, which is if towns want to implement inclusionary zoning with the new MBTA communities, multifamily zoning, by right zoning, it's required that you do a feasibility study in order to support that inclusionary zoning. My instinct tells me that's probably because they want to make sure that towns don't create some lopsided requirement that would make multifamily zoning not feasible, right? So I've gone through this practice before, and one of the previous towns I worked with, they wanted to do inclusionary zonings, obviously prior to MBTA zoning and inclusionary zoning. My suggestion was, well, let's get a market study and a feasibility report that lets us understand what is the ratio that we can actually implement in a zoning requirement like that, so that we don't accidentally discourage all development and therefore accidentally encourage nothing but 40B developments. And so then we went through the process. We hired a consultant that provided a report and said, yeah, you're most likely to make some gains in the way of affordable housing if you were to implement this ratio rather than that ratio. So that's the intent with the feasibility study. And then I also just put in to then help us, the planning board, with the creation of any language that would result as of that to be folded into the MBTA community new zoning district. So basically just a bunch of technical assistance to be given to us free of charge through the state. So I am overly confident in our chance to secure that funding. And we'll know by the end of this month. Mass Downtown Initiative grant, I submitted for an estimated just about $20,000 to obtain a consultant to provide engineering and surveying work for pre-permitting site evaluation. And this was, and I didn't neglected to mention the site, which is the parking lot out on Grove Street. That's the site. Doing wetland flagging, floodplain mapping. That's for the creation of expansion of parking on that lot, as well as that's the lot that will likely be the connection to a future pedestrian bridge connecting to the community center. MBTA communities, been working with CMRPC, although not as of recently, because obviously I've been most busy with the grants. But working with CMRPC to go through the compliance model, which is if you haven't seen it, a complex system of Excel formulas requiring input for the proposed district parameters. And so I've just been going through that process with them, trying to strike a balance. But that, hopefully that we get the funding for the community planning grant. That'll really help us and me out specifically with that, because it's kind of shooting in the dark right now because we haven't nailed down specific areas that we want, that we're really looking at, I should say very seriously, to rezone those areas. We're just kind of playing around with the numbers essentially right now to see what's what. And if you'd like, and I might just go ahead and send the board that Excel workbook, so you can see it for yourself to see how dizzying it is. And so I think I'll follow up with that. But we've been identifying potential sites throughout our conversation. Kathy, you can talk to this a little bit, with the housing production plan. Going through that process, identifying potential sites, and the EDC has suggested a couple sites as well. The EDC suggested that they want to help out in identifying those sites. So they've been offering some suggestions. The housing production plan steering committee is still working on their draft. I think I was speaking to Emily last week. We should have Emily from CMRPC. We should have a draft of that plan, I think, by Thursday. So things are progressing with that. We continue to have meetings to refine that plan. Obviously, there was a more robust conversation and renewed interest from the public in the housing production plan, given the news of the potential 40B and very, very likely 40B to be filed in town. The ZBA will have a hearing next week, and they'll hear a special permit for obviously the sawmill that came before this board, and Prime Gas is seeking a special permit for car sales on that lot as well. They also recently approved. Go ahead, Tom. Yep.
What was the special permit for? What did they actually apply for the sawmill?
Oh, it's what we discussed last time, which was manufacturing, light manufacturing.
Okay, thanks.
DBA approved a small 4-unit single family 40B at their last meeting, and they're going to be finalizing the decision at their next meeting as well.
But only one of those units is a 40B, correct?
Correct, only one of
It's
those.
single family homes and only one is.
Yes.
Yeah.
The EDC is working to identify their new priorities as of the new fiscal year, so that we wrapped up the Warren Street Parklet design project. That was done through the VSC engineering group, and so they provided basically design options for creating a parklet over here in right next to Town Hall, Warren Street, to have a small little congregational area as well as a footpath that would lead to the church's property on the other side of the stream or the brook or whatever
I think you mean United Parish. Unitarian is from West Upton Center.
Okay, yeah.
That's a long.
As I was typing that, I'm like, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I gotta get through this. Thank you. East Street Estates, I just copy pasted what Kevin Lemurs, the engineer, told me for that, which was they'll have some comparison costs returned for the lightweight versus the standard backfill, and they said they'll be reviewing with the developer this week to review feasibility versus cost of the standard and lightweight backfills at the bridge crossing. Once they have final direction, they're going to re-engage geotechnical designer to confirm the calculations for the outstanding peer review. That's where they are on that. So it sounds like nothing has happened really with it. But
But they do have to extend the shot clock on that.
Oh, yeah.
too, right?
yep, they'd extend it to the next June meeting. So
Okay,
and he'll be submitting to
okay.
do that for the meeting.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that, like, we need to have them understand that if they extend it to our next meeting,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be inclined to just vote no, because
Yeah.
I worry about it every time that they're not gonna extend the shot clock in time to give us a meaningful
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So we voted no once before on that project, so I can
Yeah.
do it again.
I was next time I had a conversation with them, I was gonna suggest, I mean, hey, so where are you really with the project, and is worth just withdrawing it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to the point where we're like, well, it's 2 years ago that
Yeah.
we voted
Sure.
no.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
announced on the
for
floor.
COVID.
Yeah.
I think also no one showed up at the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, I think
there-
that was when we finally just were
Yeah,
like,
to
okay,
request
vote it.
to continue.
Oh.
So we're like, yeah.
Done.
But for them to, say, oh, we'd like to continue it to the second meeting in June and your shot clock is through that night, that means we have to stay here, type up a decision.
Yeah.
And get it to the clerk. So
Yeah.
we need at least another meeting. All right.
Absolutely, yeah, and I will reach out to them ahead of the next meeting. I just didn't do it before this meeting because they weren't on for this meeting. The next thing, we don't want to have any specific comments about it because we need to go into executive session, but staff evaluations. I, as land use and inspectional services director, have been charged with conducting staff evaluations. So it includes Grace. So she's super excited to sit down and discuss those things. I'm just mentioning this to the board because it's my assumption that previously the board has, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, probably done staff evaluations for your staff that you've had to help.
By the board, what we mean is Paul Carey has done staff evaluations and we've all signed off.
That has been
Yeah, we
the
all
process.
we all take credit. We all take credit for it, but Paul does the work.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, I was intending on obviously keeping the board informed and, sharing those things. If Paul or Kathy, if you'd like to sit in.
Oh.
Or
If Paul is willing to do it.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you want me to be involved, I will. I don't feel I need to. I would take a look probably at like just the last evaluation we did of
Yeah.
Denise, not for the content of it, but just sort of what we base that on.
Yeah, again, I'm only discussing procedure, not.
Right. No, I'm just talking procedure as well,
Yep.
just to see because Denise's evaluation categories
Yes.
didn't change much over the years, frankly.
The evaluation.
Right, but, I don't know if you're implementing a new methodology or what. So,
It's probably the same, but I'll look to see what was done.
great, if you have questions, reach out. All right, you can always get me.
That's what we'll do. Wanted to keep the board informed on those things.
I have another question about
Yeah.
evaluations, and I do not know the answer to this. Did the planning board ever have any input into the planner's evaluation? Or was that totally the town manager?
I think we were asked if we wanted to chime in, and I think we said nice things. That was about it, but it was not, I don't remember, I guess it would have been me.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing a formal evaluation of Paul. Do you, Tom, do you remember that?
No, they were afraid to ask us.
So happy to be part of that if that's what the town wants, but
Okay,
And Joe is doing that?
yeah, I'll offer that to Joe.
I would say most complete planner's report ever.
Well, like I said in my email, it's usually just bullet points for me to just reference as I'm going through things.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to get this.
Oh,
one
no, I
sorted
was
in my
really
mind.
glad you did it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I won't always do this, but it'll be for things that I have a lot. But if you'd like me to start doing more of this, I'll certainly make an effort to try and get you something a little bit more.
I'm not looking for you to make extra work for yourself. It was helpful tonight. I think it was just good that you did the work, not that you outlined it in writing, but the amount of work was impressive.
Thanks.
The other thing is nothing's come out of our salary. So we haven't had to pay a penny for you or Grace, so we're good.
Wonderful. That was it for the end of technically the planner's report, and then there was other things
Yeah.
on the agenda that I can discuss.
Yes. Because we're also going to discuss solar bylaw.
Yes. And rambling on in my planner's report about the solar bylaw. So to catch everybody up and to sort of repeat myself, I was approached by a resident who lives off of South Street. South Street is in the AR district. Solar, large scale solar, ground mounted solar is only allowed in the commercial and industrial district, which is on either side of 140. So were anyone to submit a special permit who is in the AR zone for solar, they would have to be denied based on that fact. It was then brought to my attention that, well, first I'll say it was brought to my attention there was a bunch of recent case law, and I discussed this previously. I shouldn't even say a bunch. There's been a handful of recent case law that has favored solar over the town's solar bylaws. So it's favored putting in solar, obviously, over the town's bylaws that regulate and restrict them. That case law, each one of them, I believe, cited section 3 of I should have said chapter 40A, not 46. Chapter 40A, section 3, which states no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate, keywords, unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. And that's been the crux of case law to date. East Longmeadow had an issue, as well as Waltham recently. So that's been cited, and I'll come back to that. It was then also pointed out to me that note 10 in our table of principal uses states that provided that large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installations and I list every zone in town, are not otherwise exempted by general laws. This called into question the applicability of the table of principal uses as it regulates solar and as it reflects back on, as this note intends to reflect chapter 40A, section 3, noting its exempt status, I'll put in quotes, because it's a big old question mark as to how exempt it actually is. It was town council's opinion. So I went to the town council about this note because we had no idea how to apply it. It was town council's opinion that there's not enough guidance from the legislature within chapter 48 or the judiciary through case law to be able to definitively say that towns don't have the right to regulate solar, only that it may not unreasonably do so. Town council stated that the ability of towns to implement and require special permits remains intact, and that the town should enforce its bylaw as written. So as it relates to that note, meaning that that note says, unless otherwise exempted by 40A, the town council says, but there's nothing that states that it is exempted by 40A, actually outright. Because it says you may not unreasonably regulate it. So that means you have the ability to regulate it. What is unreasonable? We don't know. That's what's so frustrating about the situation that we're in. What is unreasonable? We don't have a guidance from the legislature. We don't have guidance from case law on it. We only know that. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may, we do have some guidance, like with the pot laws and stuff. Reasonable is you have to have a zone for it. Even this multi-zone thing from the state, you don't have to zone the whole town. You have to have one area rezoned, so it's reasonable to. And so they've got plenty of case law that it's reasonable for a town to put it someplace but not another, and that's why the town can get away with putting it in commercial industrial and not having it in agricultural residential, because it's reasonable for the town. I think that's the justification we use when we put it in. My question is to Margaret. What is the science behind the dangers of these in agricultural residential? Do they have a problem with anything that you know of?
What kind of dangers would you be talking about?
You need a tinfoil hat.
I don't think you need a tinfoil hat. I mean, there's very little data on the ecological impact of these. Are there plants and animals? Are the plants and animals impacted under them? But I don't think that there's any type of. We're not talking about the 5G situation. These are solar panels, generate electricity, go to the grid. So, Mike, is this the sand pits by any chance? Okay, that's kind of what that was. I guess in my head, I was driving down South Street. That's the only place I could imagine. And it seems like actually not a bad use for the sand pits, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing this really to the attention of the board, is that, if it was, I'm not trying to give that gentleman any particular deference, but if it was any other really location in town that's not otherwise zoned for it, but the fact that it's an old sand pit gives me pause to say, well, okay, there's definitely there's a basis and there's been practice for providing for these uses on landfills, gravel banks, sand pits, all those sorts of uses. So it certainly, it's not identified in our zoning bylaw that if you have those, right, he's not eligible. That's what it says.
Right.
But my question to the board would be, A, do you want to look at your bylaw generally? B, if you did, do you think you'd want to consider making a provision to allow for certain things like that? Again, not providing this gentleman a special benefit, but really it's a chance to reevaluate and potentially incorporate those things.
I mean, we've had a couple of interesting arguments about farming, right? Solar farms, right? We got sued on solar farm because they wanted to put it in a residential or adjacent to two residential neighborhoods. They got a special permit. That was a question.
Well, that was questionable.
Yeah, and so I think two members of the board voted to allow the use because we felt that they had the special permit, so that the use was off the table. Two other members voted no, saying, hey, you still have to come to us and we still get to decide, and we don't think it should be in the neighborhood. So
What Paul is living on is that when they filed their permits, the wrong address was sent out to all of the abutters in Janesville until.
the zoning board,
Right.
it was the ZBA allowed it because they got no opposition, but
Because the abutters didn't know.
so it was kind of like a law school exam question, right? Was it good or bad? And they sued us and then they moved on. And that's, it's still forest right now. So, but there was a lot, we voted for it, but I wouldn't have chosen to put a solar farm there if, going back on it, I thought that they had met I would have voted with the other two members to oppose it because I didn't think it should be there. I just felt that they had checked the box one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that one area, maybe not the worst place for it. We tried to put soccer fields there, the whole neighborhood and all surrounds mobilized against it because they didn't want the traffic. There's no traffic to a solar farm.
On
Once
the
a
same
week,
bit?
once a month.
Pardon me?
On the sandpit, there was
Yeah.
a proposal for soccer fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, spot zoning, that area, yeah, I could see that. I just don't know if we want to open up the rest of the town to it.
Yeah.
We had a similar discussion about marijuana facilities, could you have it, is that farming the way that pumpkins are, or is it closer to something, manufacturing or industrial? And it smells more than pumpkins, but that's about it.
Yeah, I was reading West Newbury, I think, recently adopted a new zoning bylaw that is a lot more permissive than I think their previous bylaw, because I think they also went through this practice of saying, hey, I think we've unfortunately could be caught as unreasonably regulating, so let's make a much more much less strict bylaw. And theirs had some interesting language. It said any location that is 1,000 feet, I think, was the distance from three-phase power. So existing infrastructure that can support it, because obviously three-phase power is going to be what dictates the location of these things anyway. You need to have, and National Grid needs to have the host capacity in order to support something like that. Now, obviously, a big enough proposal can pay for the necessary.
And that's a big
improvements.
area down.
Yeah. So apparently, South Street, and I haven't gone down to count the wires to double check, but apparently they just got three-phase power.
Yep, they just put it through.
And that's why this particular property is now, because otherwise it would be an option.
So, use variances are questionable. Have they thought about seeking a use variance from the ZBA?
No, it hasn't been seen either.
We found, so that is. What is that zone again? I can't.
AR.
AR. And, if one option would be to think about having it by special permit in AR.
Yeah, they're ugly.
They are ugly.
I'd rather have a 150-foot tower.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree, but no one's gonna see that one. And that's,
I know, but I just don't want
no,
that North Street Hill property was,
oh, that was gonna be all.
it was gonna
Oh,
be
no one was gonna see that.
drones proved it, right?
And Mike, the one thing that I add to these is the property value. One of the reasons on this solar problem was the property values. He couldn't say that he wasn't going to devalue the house values. And once you start devaluing property, you get less money coming into the town. So wherever we put these things, I think we have to consider the effects of the property value in the neighborhood is one of our factors for a special permit.
Sure.
Well, question, the use variance for the ZBA is an option. Then why would we have
Questionable option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use variances are a weird thing.
Some might say illegal. You gotta really like your neighbors, or they gotta like you, or you gotta buy them off.
Yeah, and I don't. Does our bylaw say anything about? So sometimes some bylaws explicitly allow for use variances. I don't think ours says anything about use variances. So therefore, I'm worried it's actually not an option. But I would need to look more into that.
Without looking at it, I wouldn't. I guess that location could be okay.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking special permit, not by right.
Right, because I might, if it's there, I might want more and a lot more screening buffer, things like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Because,
The same. Doesn't cannabis and solar follow a pretty similar pattern? Shouldn't we be looking? We can look at those simultaneously, right? We get questions on both in an AR zone. Both of them would be following a process. Are we suggesting that both of those would be a special permit from the planning board with no use variance from the zoning board required?
yeah, from what I'm reading, we're not going to have real issue with cannabis in the next couple of years. It's starting to kind of peter out. I think
Or it's
200 286 dispensaries in Massachusetts right now, and they're starting to close down. So
It's not
I don't think they need us.
I've had interest reach out to me recently.
Really?
Yeah. I've had 2 or 3 people.
I still want to put holy smokes in Holy Angels Church.
Oh,
And Mark, you could, I think that you can go straight into the second floor of Holy Angels from the parking lot on the other side, right? You could just park in the parking lot, walk across the bridge right in.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't fall off the bridge on your way back out.
Don't get hit by lightning. I like it though. I don't know. I mean, do we want to design a expanded bylaw? Or do we want somebody to come to us and say, we'll do it if you sponsor the article?
Didn't Amato come to us to ask for this too? Well, not Amato, Kelly. One of the Kelly sons came to us,
They
didn't he?
came to us, I think.
Put it up in the back somewhere.
They wanted to talk about it being in the back and raised, and that they would have some sort of crop underneath it. But then,
whether it's the planned village development or any other one, a lot of our bylaws have been written by the person who wanted to install it. We didn't have the bylaw, and they worked with us to develop the bylaw so that they could proceed.
right. Which sometimes it works out. I mean, the planned village never happened, but the bylaw I thought was okay. The home rule petition just didn't go anywhere. Town meeting was not good because there wasn't a lot of of work on it by people that had experience. So, I mean, if that landowner wants to pursue a bylaw change, I think they should come and talk to us. Because we would want to design it and then they don't care. They don't want to do it. It takes us a while. All of a sudden we put it through and they say, oh yeah, we sold it.
I mean,
Because he bought that not too long ago from Sunny Port.
do you want me to bring him in, and then we can have that conversation, and he can decide if he wants to proceed with his own. I mean, he is as a landowner has the right to petition for his own change,
Mhm.
so he can go ahead and do that. Obviously, the planning board has the ability as the planning board to petition for its own change of any kind. It might be useful to sort of do if the planning board is amenable to making some sort of change, it might be a good idea to have not necessarily a co-sign on it, but work with them on it. I mean, especially if you're thinking of a change just as easy as adding SP or PB to the table of uses for the AR.
How does the EDC feel about that? Would they partner with them?
EDC.
EDC?
I can ask the EDC. I'm not sure they're going to have an opinion either. I mean, I don't mean to speak for them, but I'm not sure they're going to have an opinion either way. But I'll certainly ask them.
Why would they?
Well,
Rumor has it they've been looking into something like this. Rumor.
Hasn't. I mean,
The rumor has it they've been looking into solar array?
Expanding our pot loss to make money.
Oh,
for the
okay.
town.
Yeah.
you're talking about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
on the solar, if it's that
Same
one.
thing. Yeah, same thing with solar. Expanding our solar laws to make money for the town. Same thing.
If that applicant was here tonight, and I know you've kind of given it maybe a bit of a negative shade, but if he came in tonight and said, this is what I want to do, how should I approach it? I would tell him the fastest way would be is if he can get that use variance, try that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to just before you tell him to come to us, which is a 6-month, 8-month process.
Yeah.
Does he want to go to?
I've already.
Questionable about whether we want to encourage people to pursue use variances when we don't think that they're legal.
So what would the rest?
It's illegal if you don't.
Oh, I was gonna say he's already I'm gonna, if I don't, I might appeal, and this isn't your thing is gonna hold up in court, but in a very friendly way, and he is aware that but any zone change would take time. And he is willing to wait because he knows that if he were to levy any sort of action, it would
It'll take time.
take just as long, if not longer. So,
And he's got no guarantee he's gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, the Goss Pond folks, they were willing to have the soccer field, which is noisy, but I'm not sure if they're gonna be willing
Now,
to have it.
this
Most
is
of them
solar.
can't see
Is that true? Yeah.
There's
Mike, this is solar. This is solar we're talking about
yeah, we're still on solar.
because Kelly's came in a couple of years ago with could
And
they
we
put
talked
in
about
solar?
that, Tom.
I'm wondering if the two of them couldn't get together, and is there anybody else in town that is interested? You know, if my advice to him would be, don't do it alone. That's all I'm trying to say. Is there's other people that have come in, and there's other parcels in town. Is there any way that he can get together with them, and they can come in as a group, just like we did with the cell towers and everything? Can they form some type of a committee rather than have the guy do it alone?
Is that part of Kelly's farm in the AR or CNI?
That
Both.
one. It's
They
I
on
am
the back.
right. We're only 500 feet deep
Mhm.
for CNI on
Yeah.
140, right? Tom, is it only 500 feet on 140 that's CNI?
That's all it goes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we get. You never get a big box or anything like
Yeah.
that. Well, that I'm sure.
Okay.
What I mean, does the board to move on from solar if you want to, or we can talk about it. But the should my recommendation be to this gentleman, file the board is open to discussing it with you. So that means, why don't you go ahead and proceed with creating a new bylaw and then filing that on your own behalf as a landowner, because you have the right to do that. I will obviously, I'm not going to write it if that's the case, but I'll help advise.
And you can bring a draft here.
Yeah, if he's interested in doing that, you might want to have a preliminary discussion with this board.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll do that as well. Okay. All right. So I'll
We're cheap, you know.
I will report general favorability, pending whatever the actual final written document is. And I'll bring him in for discussion, maybe next meeting if he's available.
Now, cannabis, that's a natural extension from this.
Oh, I don't have much on this other than I did bring this to, so as a result of having some interest as of late to bring dispensaries to town. Obviously, we don't provide for that right now within bylaws. The question was posed to the EDC. Hey, there was some interest in this. Do you want to pursue this at this time? They weren't outright not in favor, but they just didn't feel it was. They didn't want to make it a priority of theirs. That's all. So I said I'd bring it to the planning board to see if planning board wanted to do anything with it. Kind of. I think last time I brought this up, there was some discussion about, Margaret. I think it was your point of. I don't need to attribute this to
Actually, Mark was
wrong.
here last time.
No, because it wasn't last time. I think it was earlier. It was. It's been 6 years or however long it's been.
Mhm.
Is it time to just reevaluate generally?
I mean, I think we acted irrationally at the time that we banned retail, to be perfectly frank, There's gonna be lines like in Leicester or wherever it was. Like,
Right.
There's gonna be 600 shops and it's gonna be like liquor stores on every corner,
So yeah, to
This
hand it off-
board has traditionally been wrong about every guess we've made about cannabis. So we went, when the law was going through, we went to the town and said, hey, we're gonna do just one of those moratorium, where, we know it can only be X number of months, and we're gonna do that. And we got shouted down, like, this is crazy, this is, cannabis is legal now, and you need to make it legal. Then we came back into the next town meeting and said, okay, we're gonna make it legal, we're gonna put it only in these zones. No, that's.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. We want it everywhere. And then we finally went back in and we said, all right, we're going to have it everywhere. And they said, no retail. So 3 strikes.
I
We're
think
done.
by the time we got to the no retail, it was after the first
It might
shops
have
that
been
started
Lester.
opening and
Lester.
people were lining up ridiculously to,
Okay.
and now it's,
Okay.
now it's.
Just
So I think.
go,
it's a
go
good
stop the
idea.
shop and keep going. That's the sound right there.
So I think we
So,
should just
Mike,
do the conversation about it. Yes, Tom?
the thing about Upton always makes the right decision after it's tried everything else.
I just don't, I mean, it's not my hot button issue anymore, so I don't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I think it makes sense that we I mean, I think it's silly that we don't allow it.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
someone wants to do it,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's liquor stores in. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I have a sense of where the board is on it. I mean, where do you want to go from here? Do you want,
You know, if one of those people that's approached the EDC wants to come in with a revised bylaw for us to consider, much like with solar.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna write a bylaw.
okay,
I'm not gonna.
Can't we just recycle the one we did last time?
I mean, would you like me to slowly I mean, I'm not gonna make it a priority if you don't want me to, obviously, but I'm happy to begin work on things. I have Grace here to help me out with things.
I would, I
don't know.
that idea.
That's fine with me, but I see it as a solution in search of a problem. No,
That's-
if somebody's asking,
That's
I think we can
Well, they
do that.
went to the EDC and asked.
No, nobody went specifically to the EDC.
They went-
They went to me,
They went to you.
and I was like, well, do we want to do anything with this?
Yeah.
I think
So, but someone did come to you and ask.
Yeah.
if there's a champion, I think we would.
Yeah.
We could work with them
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put it on ice for now. And
unless they want to do it. Then it would be the same. I would say the same thing
I'll
that I
wait
said to the solar people.
I'll wait to hear back because I tend to agree with what you just said, even though the Worcester Business Journal just pumped out a thing saying cannabis is still hot. I don't necessarily believe it either. So if the market is going down,
It's saturated. I think.
yeah, and there's no rush for it, that's fine with me. If that's the opinion of the board, it is, it is also one of these things where it's such a hot button topic, but removing cannabis as the specific use, right? It's a use that has a market demand for it.
Mhm.
It's a use that has a market demand for construction of new buildings with it, which obviously translates to tax dollars. If cannabis can't survive as a use or be competitive long term, that if something were to move to town, construct a new building, outfit it, we'd be stuck with maybe an empty storefront, but a storefront that'd be available for moving into for another business that would want a new space that is, built to the nines, because these things typically are.
And our grow facility seems to be doing well, so
Nobody knows it's there.
no one knows it's there.
He's doing
Right,
right.
is that the store? Where's the growth facility?
That's by the cleaner behind one of those buildings up.
Yeah. Yeah,
By Colonial Capital.
Behind, across from Cooks.
I actually like the idea of, I mean, I think it's silly. I think it's
It's puritanical.
it's very puritanical, and I know people that, go to Grafton,
Mhm.
get their gummies. I mean, it's silly. I mean, I was, telling Mike that, people can't even buy papers in Upton.
Mhm.
And so it's something that's very outdated. I think that, there's a potential for tax revenue here.
Yeah.
And so I would rather be, I was not here for the history, I was not here for the other town meetings, but I actually am supportive of the idea of, proposing a zoning change to allow it in the retail district.
I have a feeling it would not be a big deal.
I don't think it'd be a big deal now. Looking at what Mike just said, if they go out of business, there'll be this brand spanking new. And we had someone before us last time talking about putting retail into a Main Street property. This might be a place for that. And I think that there would be a market here. I mean, I don't know, and I'm sure that anyone who's talked to you has done a market analysis
Analysis, yeah.
and has figured out that this is a place that they want to set up shop. So, I'm not as keen on just saying, let's not do this unless someone does it for us. I think it's something that we should, if you have time, or as you have time.
Yeah. Like I said, it's something I can.
Then it's something you can do.
It's really potentially not such a big change to the bylaw either at this point. It's just it's just use.
Yeah.
It's retail.
Well, and remember, I don't know if you guys will do this, we don't get to even see the security plans for these things. So we basically say you have to build it to meet state guidelines. And we asked on the first one, said, okay, so give us your security plan. They're like,
No,
you don't get to see it. You guys are untrustworthy. And I think it was the police chief got to see it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, just on its own. So,
There's a lot of cash on hand at those
Yeah.
places.
Too much.
so I mean, is there disagreement on that, or is there disagreement on having Mike look at it?
I'm
Even
fine
when he
with
has
it.
spare time? And then if somebody is really interested and wants to help you and provide some boilerplate language, then
Sure.
God bless them.
All right, I'll take that as a go ahead, but
Yeah.
not a
It's not
Yeah,
not
it-
not
a
tomorrow.
It isn't a priority. Ken, do you have any problems with
I
it?
have no problems with it.
Tommy, do you
I
have
see
any
it as
problems with it?
possible tax money.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay.
I'm not the stand up at town meeting again. It was all right. I already had my turn in the barrel. Okay?
Yeah. My favorite is always going to be the special town meeting. Not the public
The
hearing.
public hearing, yeah.
When we're accused of being agents of the United Nations.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gentle.
Do-
Can't imagine what you'd be called.
Which one is that on?
It was the predecessor to the center, zoning
Yeah, I was just saying,
bylaw.
we're gonna take his Dunkin' Donuts away.
Yeah, or he was gonna get hit by a car walking to Dunkin'.
And there's something on parking his lawn. I mean,
And therefore we were, what was it?
trilateral control.
Yeah, we were agents of the UN, and have you ever heard of
Agenda 20.
Agenda 21? You got it, yep. And
Yeah.
poor Paul was the one that was trying to run that meeting. It's just like, all right, I guess we're done here.
I'm gonna report back to my boss that the
People lined up 30 deep to yell at me.
Oh,
And the thing was, it was like, well, no, we want to put parking lots behind the houses. So we're not doing
You sure I can't park on my lawn anymore?
okay. So to move on,
The next thing was just two Dogwood Ave easement. There was I just wanted to bring this to the board just as informational. You don't have to have discussion. You don't have to take action on anything. The board previously back in 2018 sent a letter to Dogwood Ave, and I believe there was a copy of it put in the materials because there was a line of trees, I think, planted in the pedestrian easement, which is the access to the open space behind that subdivision. So for your information, the Conservation Commission is currently, and I think, is that Mike Penko on?
Yes, hi folks. I am on. I'm listening here.
Hey, Mike, through the chair, if you have anything to add, let us know. I was just informing the board of basically what the Conservation Commission is doing in regards to this, and looking at the legal issues that are potentially arise by, I don't want to say blocking an easement, because I don't want to make a determination that anybody's blocking an easement, but that's what they're looking at right now is, and because this was an approved subdivision through this board, that this board previously wrote a letter about, I figured I'd let you all know.
Dogwood, is that?
across Station, across from Station Street.
Yeah, the one where
Yeah.
Joe Antonellis at the end.
Yeah.
Got us to close off remember we did the second exit to the
Mhm.
railroad
Yeah.
tracks. And then there was, people came in, they were bitching about putting their leaf clippings around and things like that.
Yep.
So I think
And
that,
then Tom was worried about people crossing those high-speed railroad tracks.
no, but this was an issue from like
Mhm.
this by the time the paint was dry on the first houses, they were upset about how that easement was being used and how it was being blocked. Thought we had it resolved with there was gonna be, instead of a spike fence, kind of a neighborly fence put in there to show where the easement was. But I don't remember, that's 5 years ago now.
Hey, Mike, you wanna say
Yeah, if
anything?
I could just jump in quickly. The Conservation Commission has been doing some research, and we do think there's maybe some issues with the recorded easements that currently exist. So we've put together a package to submit to the town manager asking for town council opinion. It's probably too involved to discuss the details here, but we're not entirely sure what, we being the commission, aren't entirely sure what our rights are in terms of using the easement or having the public use the easement, and also maintaining a trail. For example, there were some trees planted. They're now essentially almost blocking the easement. The owner has asked, for some. The owner has asked for some conditions, basically, put on us if we trim those trees, and that communications with the owner basically led us to look more closely at the easements, and we're realizing there's some issues with the recorded easements, permissions given to the town.
So I was just showing everybody the,
What were the,
Down near the circle, right?
Yeah.
Close by the track. Yeah.
Yeah.
when I looked at the plans earlier, it seemed like the easement was pretty, oh, there's an echo. Is anyone else hearing it? Okay. Just us, we're the only ones that are first with the echo. But I thought that it was pretty clear where the easement was. Was it just not recorded correctly?
Well, none of us on the Concom are attorneys, but we do think there might be some issues that that the deed that Crosswinds granted to the town for Dogwood Drive and a bunch of other easements like access easements, drainage easements, things like that, may not have included the right to use the 30-foot wide access easement that you see on the plan here. And also there's another easement that was recorded by the owners of 2 Dogwood that gives the town kind of a strip of land through the 50-foot wide easement that you see on the plan. And then below that to Dogwood Drive. That particular easement was never reviewed by the Board of Selectmen or Town Council. The Selectmen didn't sign off on it, so we don't know about the validity of that easement granted by the homeowners. Those are probably the 2 biggest issues.
But we're not gonna be able to resolve this tonight.
no. This is just for your information. The subdivision's already complete. The board doesn't have any ability to take action on anything. But I figured it was good to, again, it's a subdivision. So it's probably good to just identify this as an issue for future subdivisions.
Sure, I was saying, like, I don't know, it looked pretty clear to me. I wasn't here when the votes were taken, but I don't know what. I mean, something.
I mean, it
you
was
have to
very
be careful
clear
of.
that was the intent of that easement.
Yeah.
And we enforced the intent of the easement before.
Right.
We had people come in, the warring parties come in. We got Andy Leonard, who was taking over the project at the end, to go in and put some sort of a fence up to delineate where people could walk and where they couldn't. Because people felt that, folks would walk down the end of the street,
Cut across.
cut across my lawn, right, to get across the tracks and out to the next neighborhood. And there was a little bitty fence put up there just to kind of guide people. And we thought that was it. And frankly, we haven't heard from them in 5 years, so that was a good night's work.
But now the challenge is if this subdivision plan even allowed the
A little bit of
public
the
access to that land, to that.
a little bit of the backstory is the commission last year we started to work on establishing a trail here in the winter of 2020. Did run into some concerns that the homeowner had, and then the pandemic hit, and we decided to just put it on hold, and it kind of just went away for a few years. We do have establishing a trail along Center Brook. This easement leads to Center Brook, as most of you probably know. Establishing a trail through the town's conservation land along Center Brook is a high priority item in the open space and rec plan. And then this year, there was an Earth Day cleanup in Center Brook by the commission, and the folks on the ground realized that access was essentially blocked by, especially the pine trees that were planted. So we started to re-engage the landowner, the two Dogwood Drive owners, this really, I think in May, because it was realized that easement was blocked, and then as we dug further, we realized there might be some problems with again, like I said, with the easements that Crosswinds granted to the town when they turned over Dogwood Drive to the town.
So an issue further complicated by not knowing whether or not sounds like the legal language was in place accurately enough to protect that use.
And that legal language would be provided by the developer.
But it would have been reviewed by town council.
Typically.
This was 2018?
No, it was on, okay. I think I was on Concom when we started reviewing that.
Okay.
I think that the actual easement, Dogwood Drive, I think it was transferred to the town in 2018, and that's the date of the easement. And I think perhaps it was just an error that. Well, this is okay. This is the easement that Dogwood Drive granted to the town, the one that wasn't reviewed by the town or accepted by the selectmen. So this one's when? This is 18.
This is 2018.
So, okay, so the town, I think the Dogwood Drive easement then was 2017. But you can, if you scroll down, you can see what they granted the town in this. There's a plan, sketch map. There's no signatures from the selectmen accepting it. So here you can see the 30-foot easement, and then they kind of carved out of the 50-foot wide easement a narrower strap, and then exactly right there, and then created a 10-foot wide easement that goes to Dogwood Drive. They did meet once with the commission about this, and we were supportive. The Crosswinds folks said that the owners were concerned about the trail, basically cutting across their front yard. So if we had only used the 50-foot wide easement, the trail would have to gone, more or less across their front yard, and couldn't quickly hug to the property line. And this looked good to us, but the deed actually was never submitted to the Conservation Commission for review. We don't even think this plan was submitted to us for review. There's only one discussion we can find in minutes. And it was kind of a general discussion.
We definitely discussed it anyway too. So.
The other little wrinkle here, there's not a photograph, but right where the 10-foot pedestrian easement meets Dogwood Drive, or the town land in Dogwood Drive, there is a granite outcrop. It's about 3 foot high, roughly the same width as the 10-foot wide easement, which makes pedestrian access very, very difficult.
So Mike, Paul was just looking at an aerial, and it does look like there was a fence that keeps people away from that lawn still, that they had agreed to.
Is there a fence still up there?
The fence is still up there. Yeah.
Because that was
That was the fix.
the fix for that they agreed to with us to keep people off of their lawn.
Yeah. The people crossing the railroad issue, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and also coming from Dogwood Drive even.
Right.
Yeah.
And walking dogs and
Yep.
dropping clippings and planting trees. And it was all.
The fence is right along the property line between the two Dogwood and the railroad.
I thought that it was supposed to leave enough space for people to walk along the railroad.
There's not enough space there. That's part of the problem. The fence would have been much better located, like 10 feet off the property line or something. Then it would have been a screen.
And maybe that's the solution is to move that fence.
So that's going to be on us.
Yeah, but that's not us. That's
That's
somebody.
that's going to be the town.
That's gonna be the town.
We got a developer to do it last time.
And so, Mike, I think this is on for conservation tomorrow night for more discussion.
It is, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and if you can keep, Mike, abreast of what's going on and just keep us in the loop. So, and then you can, incorporate into your reports.
Yeah.
So we can because I think we have the historical interest in it. And I'm just curious about how it happened. Just because, you do want to be careful if you're negotiating easements with future developers to make sure that
That happened.
that doesn't happen again. So, I thank you very much for bringing us into the conversation. Just keep us in the loop. So,
Okay.
But before we move on, one quick thing is that this appears to be a handoff issue where the planning board gets through its process, it approves on the plan, and then it goes to actually be built. And there's, in most places, we have an as-built that follows it. It doesn't sound like when there's a handoff on the easements that we have any clear handoff that's reviewed and given to you without these issues. So I wonder if that process needs to be looked at as to when we're done with it, what happens with you or the selectmen approving it, would be my question.
Yeah, I seem to think Joe, the town manager, kind of took more control of the last whatever we did, to make sure that the deeds and things like that were, I think, right after he got in, he wanted to make sure that the town signed off on it. He wanted to make sure that we collected enough fees at some point that, that the developer would be on the hook for town council's review. But I still think that we had town council review things like easements and deeds and all that good stuff. That's the dark ages.
okay, any other questions, comments? Anything from the audience? Kathy, you have anything you want to say or? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Paul.
Aye.
Margaret.
Aye.
Ken.
Aye.
Tommy.
I but one question for Ken. You got a graduate this year. Congratulations.
Thank you. I got two.
You got two?
That was a snake. One college, one high school.
One from BBT and one from BC.
Ah,
All right.
all right. Congratulations.
Okay, and I vote aye, so motion carries and we're.
Good night, Tom.
Everybody.
Hey, did,